With homes going way above $1 million, you're probably asking yourself, what does it take to afford a home in today's market? After watching this video, you're gonna get the complete breakdown of what that's gonna take. And it's all gonna begin right after this. Hey everyone, Josh Tavares, Realtor with eXp Realty, covering the Greater Toronto Area. It would mean so much if you can help us out and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and jiggle the notification bell to get updates on our newly uploaded content. And if you want access to our seller's guide, comment seller's guide down below, and I'll send that your way. Without further ado, let's begin. To start things off, in order to afford $1 million home in today's market, you're gonna need a $200,000 down payment and a household income of $175,000 annual. Remember, this could drastically change depending on your assets and liabilities, so you may actually be able to qualify for less than what we've just spoke about here. So it all depends on your situation. Unless you've got $1 million in cash or a gift waiting for you that comes to about $1 million, that's essentially what it's going to take typically to afford a home that's $1 million in today's market. Now, $1 million today does not sound like a lot of money, and I'm gonna show you how much purchasing power $1 million has lost over time. In the early 90s, let's say in 1992, $1 million was worth a lot of money. And by 2002, that would be worth right now about $1.2 million. In 2012, $1 million in 1992 would be worth $1.6 million today. In today's market, $1 million from 1992 would actually be worth $1.9 million today. And in 2032, a decade from now, that same amount will be worth $2.5 million, showing the amount of purchasing power we've lost over time and how much more money was worth in past. Now, in order to obtain financing, you're gonna need a couple different things on $1 million home. First of all, your down payment, and second of all, your debt service ratio. Hardest thing when obtaining a home of that magnitude in terms of purchasing price is having enough of a down payment. And by Canadian law, in order to afford a $1 million home, you need 20% down, which I stated earlier is $200,000. Remember, if you're purchasing home less than 20% down, that's considered a high ratio mortgage, and you're going to have to pay mortgage insurance. This is done so in the event that you're not able to pay the loan, there's an insurance that's able to help pay the lending institution on your behalf. And with simple math, you're going to need an $800,000 mortgage to just hit the ceiling of $1 million property with your $200,000 down payment. Now, we're not out of it yet. You still have to pay for closing fees, which is going to cost you about 1.5% of what you're purchasing the property for. And that's going to cover legal fees, title insurance, and land transfer fees. And let's face it, land transfer fees are typically the most expensive fees in the closing process, unless you're a first-time home buyer. However, with a home of this magnitude in terms of price, I highly doubt many first-time home buyers are going to purchase a $1 million home for their first property. Now, with a property of this magnitude, closing costs are roughly going to range between $15,000 and $40,000. I know it is a steep cost, but it is roughly about that percentage range of $1 million property. To successfully obtain this property on closing, you're going to need about $240,000 throughout the transaction to safely acquire this property. And like I stated earlier, your debt service ratio is going to be a massive factor of whether you get approved for an $800,000 mortgage for $1 million home. The debt service ratios are enforced by CMHC to show what a financial institution can allow to provide to someone for financing on a home. And for debt service ratios, there's gross debt service ratio and total debt service ratio. GDS, gross debt service ratios, is calculated by the following: mortgage payments plus property tax plus heating or half of any maintenance fees if that's included, divided by your annual income, and this number needs to be less than 32 to qualify for the GDS ratio. Now, a mortgage of about 2.5% with $1 million home, 20% down at $800,000 mortgage is going to cost you roughly about $3,600 a month. And like we said, your income needs to be at least $175,000 to qualify. Now, the next one is total debt servicing, and it includes the following: our GDS amount plus credit card interest plus car payments plus loan expenses divided by your annual income, and it needs to be less than 40%. Now, let's look at the total expenses for $1 million home. Mortgage, $3,600 a month, property tax, $800, heating costs, $200 a month, car loan, $600 a month, with the total expenses roughly being about $5,200 a month. This is only the cost of obtaining the home. This is not including any other additional payments that you have food, groceries, anything of that sort. So something you need to calculate and have an idea of when looking to purchase $1 million home. When looking to purchase a home, it might not be the smartest thing to go all in and get the most expensive mortgage you can obtain, because there's some things you might want to look into as well. One thing to look into is that you might not want to max out, being that you want to set some money aside for retirement. So if you're going to purchase $1 million home, make sure you have a high enough income to not only qualify, but have extra money every month that you could set aside for a rainy day, savings for of any kind, but especially for your retirement. And many analysts recommend putting aside 10% of your paycheck every month and investing into different type of investments in order to not only have a retirement, but grow your retirement fund as well. Do remember, there are talks from the federal government of increasing the interest rates aggressively this year. So your payment at $3,600 can end up being somewhere along the lines of near $4,000, maybe even higher, depending on how much it goes up by the end of the year. So something you need to put into thought process when looking to purchase a home. This is why the stress test was created about 5 years ago, to see if people were able to afford their home in the event the rates would increase by 2%. I highly recommend speaking to a mortgage specialist who can break down the numbers and be able to put different scenarios in front of you in the event you're ready to purchase $1 million home, so you're best prepared in the event something was to take place, like a mortgage hike, and also setting aside money for your retirement and any other funds for what if, or even also for vacation and whatnot, so you're in the best position possible to live the best life, and that you're not putting any financial turmoil by making a decision today that could affect you down the road. Also, having children and looking at different expenses for their university or college education is going to make a massive difference in terms of the monthly budget that you need to set aside on top of the different expenses you're paying today. At the end of the day, you need to qualify. You're going to need about $175,000 in income, $200,000 down payment to get an $800,000 mortgage for $1 million home. However, you need to take into account that you need to qualify, have money set aside for not only your retirement and any vacation, but also potentially for any life events such as having children, their education, and so on and so forth. So it's not the easiest thing to say, go buy $1 million home if you can afford it, because things can change down the road that could put you in a financial strain down the road. So it's something that you want to talk with your financial specialist and be in the best position so you're ready to purchase the home, you know confidently you're in a good phase. I hope this video was super helpful, insightful, and gives you all the information that you need to purchase $1 million home in today's market. Josh Tavares, Realtor at DXP Realty, covering the Greater Toronto area. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to get updates on our newly uploaded content. And if you guys want to know about the top 5 neighborhoods in Toronto, click the card above. I go completely in depth into that topic. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Take care.